even the European Food Safety Agency, which is authorizing glyphosate, recognize that there are some problems with the authorization. They recognize that the glyphosate-based formulations are generally more toxic than glyphosate itself, but they say that it's not their job to study the formulation and that the member states should do that by themselves. So now, what should we do, what the science should do to make the regulatory assessment of pesticides more reliable and to prevent human health effects? So more studies should be done. First, as you have seen, the commercial formulations should be studied and not only one chosen molecule. It has to be tested at environmental level, which is never done. Generally, in regulatory assessment by industry, only high level, high concentration of glyphosate are tested, and the toxic effects at low level are extrapolated. But we know that it's not possible for endocrine disruptors because hormones are acting at very low level, and since they are acting at very low level, they could act at levels that could be found in the environment. And this is not possible to test this effect by only testing high level of pesticides. So we should also incorporate testing principle of endocrinology. I can say that in any regulatory assessment of pesticides, hormones are not measured mandatory. It's a bit crazy to see that industry will spend millions to do the commercial test of a pesticide, but sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen, they are never measured, even if we know that disturbances of these hormones can provoke serious effects. I should also say that in the regulatory assessment of pesticides are never tested lifelong in an animal. These studies are never examining the full lifespan of the experimental animal, only adults. When we talk about a chronic study, this chronic study starts after the puberty in a rat at 5-6 weeks of age, and it stops before the rat gets old. So we only test the effect on healthy animal during adult. The sensitive period of prenatal exposure and during aging are never covered by regulatory assessment. We should also do more monitoring of pesticide and other pollutants in human body fluid, because this has never been done. And when it is done, we know that we are exposed to hundreds of different molecules, and these hundreds different molecules, they end up in our blood, and they are detectable in our blood. In a study performed a few years ago, it was detected that hundreds of different chemicals were in the blood of newborn umbilical cord blood. And most of these products were known to be toxic. So it prevents doing scientific studies because we don't know who is the control group, who is the treated group. In a city, sprayed with pesticide in school, park, how can we do a study if we don't know who is exposed or not? We have to limit the exposure to pesticides. This was well described by Nick. A lot of cities are going pesticide-free. I took this example, a city in France. This is the city where I spent around 10 years during my scientific studies. I did my PhD there. It's quite not a big city, but not a small village. And it has gone zero pesticide in the last few years. Weeds are removed by applying heat, and they are also doing effort to prevent the use of pesticide for non-agricultural use for gardeners, and they even distribute lady beetles for gardeners, so they don't use insecticide and it's free. People can collect lady beetles if they want some So there are solutions. It's not impossible. So there is a huge challenge, which is not only to maintain cities pesticide-free, but to change completely our agricultural system to remove the use of pesticide. And there's a lot of solutions out there, but they are not studied because the mainstream studies are always on intensive practice. I've seen that because I was recently in Cuba and I was meeting a farmer. He has done all his life agroecology, but he doesn't know that. And this guy didn't have any problem. There was no health effects in the surrounding, no infestation by pests. Even if there was insects everywhere, there was no damage to crops. And when I was asking to this guy if he was using pesticide, he told me, solamente agua. He doesn't need money to spray pesticide and to buy expensive pesticide. Only water would do. And this is how humanity has been fed for thousands of years, and we know that if we come back to this system and if we can improve this system by the use of science, we can feed easily 9 billion people.